Huge. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just waiting on. Okay. All right. So we are live on YouTube and our Facebook pages. We got a new friend in here, beloved brother, Greg McPhee. We're going to get to know him in just a second. Well, we'll just talk about it when the show starts. But we're going to put on the intro right now, let people have time to come in. I'll be back in a minute, 19 seconds. Yes, the downloads are pouring in today. Thank you, Jen Reynolds, also known as the sloth laying on the couch. I can't do anything today. Morgan just shared that with me. I hope to see you, Jen, you and Eric in Sedona. Welcome, everybody. We have a new friend, and in typical Soulogy fashion, we're going to get to know Greg McPhee through a conversation with all of our brothers and sisters present. So welcome to the show. Greg, and thank you for coming in and honoring us with your presence on this very powerful day.
Thanks so much.
Which I think must have something to do with 9/11, based on everything that seems to be coming to the surface. Sure. So yeah.
It's been really magical, powerful, energetic, intense, whatever you want to call it, expansive. And it's, just want to say it's a great pleasure to be here. I've been checking out some of your shows and listening to some of your different guests you've had on, and it's been very interesting. I've enjoyed it so much, and you're cool, man. Like I really dig your stuff and everything, I've seen you do on here so far. So I just wanted to tell you that. Putting out the love for you.
I appreciate that. So I don't know anything about you, and we don't, or at least, I don't. Some of the people out there may, but I know you're in Saskatchewan, right? Is that where you're at? And so we've had quite a few people from that area come on, including Lori Peterson and her group. They're up there. I don't know the name of the small town they're in. I know that's a big place. What I wanted to ask you first is, can you give us a little, because I don't know how you found us or how that was initiated. I don't know if Leilani reached out to you. You reached out to us. It really doesn't matter. But how did you come to us, and what are you doing, and what's going on? Give us a little backdrop.
Well, first of all, I've been having this twin flame, split soul, whatever you want to call it, divine counterpart experience for a bit over a year now. Wow. And I believe my beloved might have come across your channel first or seen you on YouTube and then said, hey, you got to check this guy out. So I did. And then, I think she was probably watching more of your videos or was more aware of what you and Morgan were up to. Yeah. And I, of course, got really interested in that and hearing more about you and checking out your shows. And then she mentioned the other day how you had put out an invite to come on and just whoever wanted to come on and talk. And so I said, yeah, sure. Why not?
Right on, man. That's what it's all about. So you started having and I just want to point out to everybody that when we talk about what people call twin flames, I don't really care for that name, but when they talk about these divine unions, these coming together, that some people do it, we all do it within ourselves. And whenever we talk about it here, I just want to make it clear, we're talking about energy. You don't have to be with someone. It doesn't have to be someone of the opposite sex. It doesn't have to be there. It's just, we're talking energy, and we're all physical representations of this energy, and we're building these new templates and figuring it out. And we're doing it, in my opinion, by what you just said, people stepping up now and, taking the plunge and getting out there and making their code available by, coming to the table like you are tonight. But you just started for you like a year ago. Did you know anything about, had you heard anything about twin flames or divine unions? How did that start? Did it happen in Dimension? Did you meet online? Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah. Well, I would say, consciously experiencing this divine union, or whatever you want to call it, divine experience, divine counterpart experience, balancing the divine masculine, divine feminine, but as with the external manifestation of it, as we manifested each other, I suppose, into each other's lives.
True.
So that was a little over a year ago when we met online. We happened to be on I guess you'd call it like a spiritual soul family networking forum. And so we knew of each other on there. Like there was Zoom meetings, Zoom chats, and that kind of thing, where we were seeing each other. But she started sending me some messages every once in a while, like emails, like just ask me like very sort of generic spiritual questions, like, what do you think about this? Or what does this energy mean? Or this and that, And I was quite active and vocal on this site. I was talking to a lot of different people and really putting myself out there on that forum. And so she just kind of looked at me as somebody that, he might be, might give me some insights on some things that I've been working on. So we kind of did that like really casually for back and forth for a little while. And then it just turned into more and more frequent conversations, where then we started talking on Messenger, getting to know each other a lot better. And then there was a point where it was getting like obviously a lot more emotional, and there was a recognition of some kind of connection that we had. And you'll have to forgive me if I get some of the chronology wrong here, or ask my
okay. All of our 3D memory banks are being wiped out as we speak.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, at a point there, we ended up started getting a lot of Kundalini energy active in us. At this, maybe a little bit before that, started sharing some visions with each other about like things where, we were merging all over the planet and that kind of a thing. And
sounds familiar.
Yeah, I've heard a few other couples say that too. And so it kind of really kicked off when we were both having it like a simultaneous Kundalini, very, intensive, energetic kind of day, where I had Kundalini experiences a few times before, like over the span of a couple years previous. So when that was coming up, I was just like, okay, here we go with that again. But then she was having it at the exact same time. And this is kind of funny and interesting, because I was having it and I was feeling this coming on a little, more powerful than I had before. And she was having it. She ended up having 3 separate, within a day time, she had an hour at a time of this, what she could only describe as like a cosmic orgasm, where it would just like electric water moving up from her feet all the way up her body. And then the third one became the most intense, and it was like it moved up to the top of her head and just kind of exploded out of the top of her head. And she had this vision, this very vivid vision of the two of us merged in like a DNA strand. And then at the bottom, which I think is a sync with something you were mentioning the other day, forgive me if it wasn't you, but where she saw these little sort of globule cellular creatures that were kind of like a pink and blue color.
Yeah.
And then there was the two of us in human form above that with this DNA strand. And then at the very top of that was this blue avian type creature being with his wings kind of like spread out over top. And she said sort of towards the end of the experience, that blue bird type being there just kind of engulfed her and took her right in, where she just felt such tremendous love. Like,
Wow.
the whole thing, she felt all this love. So anyway, we of course discussed that at great length, and just everything else that was going on, the types of talks that we had were it was obvious where we had a really strong connection, and the more we talked, it was like, mirroring constantly, but like mirroring everything. Like there was parallels with just every, like going back through our history, all throughout our life, we had very, very similar things. Like it was like the same person, but a male and a female form.
Right.
I don't know how common that is with a lot of twin flames and circles, but
I think it's very common.
yeah,
I think it's very common.
yeah,
I mean, it's, and some people, I mean, like, Morgan and I have talked about it. We had a lot of those experiences. We didn't come together for like 15 months. And
yeah,
the dimensional merging, that part of it, the Kundalini, that part of it. I mean, some people do it in dream states, some do it in dimension, some do it, embodiment as we're doing it, and it's a merging of mergings. And, so, and again, some people do it with a partner and some people do it. We have friends that we've had several instances where we've had, these cosmic orgasms going up through the chakras, or, something opened up. And then, 2 or 3 of her friends would, send her a note the next day and say, hey, you know what happened to me last night?
yeah,
And they were alone by themselves, but they were doing the same thing we were doing. We just happened to be laying next to each other doing it together. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's Morgan often says, when we go through stuff, which is like, as recent as 2 nights ago was the last big one, huge one. And
I heard that.
she said, this is happening all over the place. And I knowing it's not unique to us, but you would think, oh, this can't be happening to that many people. But no, I think it's happening in great abundance, really.
Yeah, sure.
So did you guys, when you started to have these Kundalini experiences and these parallels and these visions, were y'all consciously trying to merge, like through messaging or on the phone, or was it just happening simultaneously without the human consciously trying to initiate it?
No, it wasn't an induction or anything like that at all, or intention. It was totally like, that's what we've talked about a lot. We felt like it really kind of like dropped on us or happened to us.
Yeah.
We were aware of the concept of twin flames prior to this experience, but we were kind of indifferent at best to it. Like we didn't have a lot of interest in it. We weren't following the lore, or we just really, weren't into the whole twin flame scene. So it was funny because it took like a lot of evidence and like kind of like bonks over the head over and over again, repeatedly building up until we both finally started saying, like, okay, this is getting ridiculous already. Like there is definitely something going on here.
Yeah.
So that's maybe when we started checking out, whatever you want to call them, twin flame videos, or divine counterpart videos that different people were putting out, and really discussing it, what this is all about. So, of course, since then we've been just, consuming every bit of
Yeah, right. Like a sponge. So, and there's a lot of misconceptions about these, and of course they're all unique, just like we're all unique individuals. So each couple's unique, but there seems to be pretty much across the board, from what I can tell. I think it's perfectly natural, and I think it's happened to most of us that we had at least one or two episodes of where we thought, when the internet really started to boom, like after 2012, and you meet somebody and you're messaging like, oh my God, I know you. And, we had a past life. And so there's, even with that said, there doesn't seem, what if I said to you this way, how does romance fit into this divine counterpart connection? Does it look like anything from before? Is there any at all? Is it, what is that? What does that bring up when I say romance in respect to this relationship you're in?
Yeah, that's another funny story, because like I was saying, I wasn't into the twin flame business before. And then when when we really got going and connecting or feeling into the connection and all that, and we got into what we call the bubble phase. And sorry, I should say prior to that, I was very much a confirmed, non-romantic. Like, I wouldn't say that I didn't have any interest or romance in me, but I had left a lot of that kind of back maybe in my early teens. And after that, just started getting more and more jaded and giving up on romance, and it was just out of my mind, out of my heart, out of my life, kind of a thing. And I was okay with that. But then, when we merged and started communicating quite regularly, it just quickly became like the most intense, beautiful fairy tale romance, magical romance that beyond my imagination that it would have been if somebody, had described something to me ahead of time. I would have, it would have just paled in comparison to actually what I've been experiencing. Like, it has been just unbelievably romantic, and I've had stuff coming out of me and things like, where did that come from? It's like channeling, really. It's so that's a resounding yes, I guess, to your question.
It is, and I guess that. So in a way, it is, because I can feel for what you're saying. In a way, it's like, because we kind of get indoctrinated, as kids, the fairy tales and all that stuff, and then the jaded comes in, and it's almost like you empty the vessel of that expectation because you don't think it exists. I know when I met Morgan, it was like, and it was immediately a fairy tale thing. And I thought, the second I see a chink in the armor, I'm out of here. This can't be, it's almost like too good to be true.
Right. Yeah.
But then, of course, all the other aspects of it really create a dynamic that none of us could be ready for, which is the partnership, which is the for lack of a better word, the work you do together, because it is work. You're two doing what everybody's doing, and there's that element of what a lot of people are starting to talk about and recognize, which is a third energy. The third energy is involved. Like, there things happen that just, you can tell that the universe has got your back. Have y'all experienced any of that?
Oh yeah, we talk about it all the time. This third energy, we feel it there all the time. It's just whether we focus on it or not, then we can feel it a lot more intensely, strongly coming up. There's definitely sexual energy element to it that you feel there. It feels like the two of us, merged, like combined.
Yeah.
But then there's something else there too, like you're saying, like this universal Christ consciousness, unity consciousness, unconditional love, all of that there. So we feel all of that in there all the time. And that's what actually I was going to ask you about, because we've been listening to you, you and Morgan, and Morgan posting things and about this triad and third energies and that sort, like other parties or whatever, bringing in and merging that way. And so we were just kind of like, with this, sanctified energy, like of your third energy, how all that kind of works, or how does that like affect your interaction with Morgan or with anybody that does that?
How does it affect? What was that? You broke up. How does it affect what? That I don't know
or if you connect or merge with someone else energetically, like she was explaining with the triad, and I heard a fair bit about it so far, about the sorry, what'd you use?
That's all right.
There was a word she used. Sorry, where it's kind of like the two combined, male and
merging helioscamos.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think the first time I saw it, that it registered for me was she came over in 2017, and we probably spent we've been like maybe 2 weeks. And because she had the insight, after having downloaded for many years, sacred sexuality, helioscamos, divine union, ascension, she came over and she was way ahead of me in terms of, for me, it was still like, okay, if anything doesn't, jive, I'm out of here. I didn't mean it that way, but I just meant like, this is just too good to be true. And so what happened was I was doing some serious zero pointing that she had offered up for me so I could expand, so that then we could expand. And of course the ego was like, what are you talking about? I'm connected and there's nothing wrong with me. Why are you picking on me? And so after a few days of Todd's projecting, she said, I'm just going to fly out of here. I'm going to go to New York. I was in Houston. And so I said, fine, okay. So she went to the airport. There's 2 major airports in Houston. She goes to the first one. She can't get a flight. She's going to New York City from 2 international airports, okay? And obviously New York City's got about 6 of them. Yeah. Well, she couldn't get a flight. So she took a bus, goes to the other larger airport, and she couldn't get a flight. And while she was gone, there was something in me that came and said, hey, she's not going anywhere. It's just not going to happen. Of course, the human was like, oh, right, whatever. But that's what happened. She sent me a note. She goes, can you help me? I can't get a flight, which is just crazy. How can you not get a flight from Houston, New York? This is way before quarantine, Yeah. So I just said, look, just come back. And then everything has been what it's been. So that was probably the first time that it really impacted me. And I thought, and I let my human surrender to it. And then I think the second time would have been the second time she came. I was in Georgia. She came over. We'd been apart for 9 months, 9 hard months on my end, and I'm not sure how it went for her. She seemed to handle it pretty well, because I was traveling around with a suitcase with no money, just broadcasting, just doing what I was told. And so the minute she came in, we started this, I guess, like a daily ritual. We'd lay down in the middle of the afternoon, put our hands together, and just connect. And so within 3 or 4 days, the third energy presented itself to us, at least in part. It came as soulogy, and it appeared in front of us. It was a golden tree bearing golden apples. It was speaking to us. Again, this is metaphoric. We all know this, but it was energetically letting us know that we are, this was a product of our union, and that it had now reached, I don't know how to put this, but it had reached a point where it was in and of itself a consciousness functioning and caring for itself, and that it would assist us, and it did, and it communicated with us, and we had many different times we've connected with it. But I would say that would be the second time, and I think the third one, and there's been many of them, but I'm just trying to give people a little bit of a spectrum of how this could appear. We were in Hawaii last year. We connected one night, and we'd been having some monadic type of dimensional experiences. And so we asked at that time, we'd had a couple already. One was a group of, I think, 24, or I think they both were 24. And we said, can we go to the highest level available that we're ready for? And we had this experience where we came into, the presence of a monad of 12.
Right.
And one of them stepped forth and let us know that what we were dealing with, and said, I am the two of you in one body. So those are some of the things I could offer to you about it. It's just such a broad spectrum of possibilities, but obviously it's been present in the sacred sexuality interludes that we've had, because there's been, over, a period of time, there's been an evolution of these experiences, which are for the most part just us holding our hands, laying in bed next together at night. And it's accelerated recently to where there's been an androgyny, there's been her masculine, my feminine, there's been the higher selves involvement, there's been the light body involvement, and then, of course, the merging of that triad of higher self, light body, and human physical body. So, and I got to believe that a big part of that, these occurrences are because of this third energy. So that's a good question. I think that might help some people there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Morgan had a question for you. Have you and your beloved met in the physical?
Yes, we've had 3 actual separate meetings in the physical.
Yeah.
2 1 week, the first 2. Sorry, the first time it was for a week. She came here to see me. I went there the second time to see her for 2 weeks, and then she came back here again, which was last March, for a week. Yeah. So we've been together on 3 separate occasions.
Yeah, I bet that.
Because he's down in the States where you are, so that's obviously some physical blockages anyway.
Oh, that's right. Is there no flying between Canada and? Oh, wow.
Not unless you're married and things like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, what was that like, being in the physical presence for the first time? I know I acted like a complete idiot. Just so if you did, don't feel bad.
Well, it was very magical, of course, and tingles all over, and very intense. Like, it was kind of funny because we thought we'd both be bawling when we first saw each other, up close the first time, but we were just kind of I don't know, overwhelmed by the whole. She was a bit more nervous than I was, and so it was just very special, very beautiful, loving. She kind of just came up and just put her head on my chest, which was so nice, and just had a nice hug, and it was just, it was more like, seeing each other after, somebody very well, that after you haven't seen them for a very long time, it was just kind of like, oh, you're here, kind of a thing.
Like picking up where you left off.
Right. Yeah. And then it was, after that, just can't keep our hands off each other.
I can relate to that. But there's also, Morgan's asking the question, does she live in Albuquerque? I don't know why she's asking that question.
Yes, that's correct.
She does. Okay. And then that brings up a whole new thing too, because when people talk about sacred sexuality, at least when we do, through our experience, and of course from the downloads she's had for many years, that it's a whole different ballgame. There's all the performance and the routines and the patterns and the expectations and the roles, and it's just it's like everything goes out the window. It's and of course it can be holding hands, walking down the street. It can be these cosmic orgasms coming through when you're rubbing your pinkies together. Just all kinds of stuff can happen, dimensional experiences, whatever. But let me ask you this first. What about triggers? A lot of people give credence to the fact, I'll say it's a fact, that this is an acceleration. This is a quickening of an individual's expansion by virtue of this, what's been set up by the two. Have triggers been something that's been prevalent in your time together?
Oh yeah, for sure. So, that's one of the challenging parts of it. Because yeah, you do bring up things that you really, really, really have worked hard at not looking at or touching on, and you just can't avoid it. It comes up, and also, I was at a point where in my spirit walk or journey, awakening journey, where I kind of thought, well, I read a lot of things, experienced a lot of things, talked to a lot of different people, like, starting to get a little bit of that feeling like, yeah, I've done all this work. Oh my goodness, I've done so much work on myself, like I should be levitating by now, like, and then we merged and all this mirroring and triggering started up, and then it's just like, you just go right back to like you say, 0 point again, where you feel like, have I really
have I done anything? Why am I even here? What's the point?
Or what have I learned, kind of thing. So yeah, for sure, there was things that I just couldn't even have imagined before her that I had an issue with, or very vaguely at best, thought might be a bit of a problem, but it just would come up so clearly with her.
Yeah.
And also me bringing up things for her. So yeah, we've definitely had a lot of issues that we've worked through. One of them, like for example, for me, has been like an abandonment, or what's the other angle on it? Yeah, like basically abandonment and attachment type of issues. Like really working intensively on that.
Yeah,
and it's an ongoing thing for me.
It's a real eye opener to me with the whole. Well, we all carry. Let's just say we all carry narcissistic frequencies. Well, we carry everything, and this, and some are lighter than others, and so on. But these subtle imprints we have of it's okay for them, but not for me. You can talk about control. You can talk about judgment. It really cuts to the core. It's like it's a fast track. And that's just one example I'm giving. It's just the involvement of because it's one thing to say, which is said a lot and could be a cliche, but it's not. It's never them. It's always me. Everything outside of me is for me. But when you're face to face with somebody, and given the history of our 3D relationships, it's a little more difficult to see those blind spots, at least until, you get to a certain point. But it's, I don't know. I'm so fortunate, I feel, to be able to navigate this thing, with her, because I can't even imagine, how long things would have taken me had I not. Right. So props to my higher self. That's all I would say.
And the unconditional love is so key, because that's one of our things that we talk about quite often, is how the open and honest communication is to the extreme with us, where we just are so we're transparent about everything. And we knew that was true early on, because we told each other things about ourselves that we would have never told anyone else. If we wanted to stay in a relationship, we wouldn't have told somebody, because just told the ugliest things really we've ever been a part of or done or whatever. But we just know that so clearly that is such an important and vital part of our connection and relationship. And so that helps us so much when we have these triggers come up, to work through that and keep talking and keep, the energy moving and expressing to each other. And then also, practicing that and expressing that unconditional love, that, and non-judgment of each other. And then also working on that within ourselves at the same time, not judging ourselves anymore and setting
True.
that aside.
Yeah, true. Because that's the core of it, right? That's the core of the blockage. And then the thing that, because I remember this early on, and I would say like in the first 3 or 4 weeks easily. And this is when it was long distance, and so that transparency she brought to the table,
Yeah.
and I mean, because that's what happens when you're married to a psychic, right? You know what I mean? It's like we're going to telepathy anyway, so you might as well lay it out. But anyway, so she asked me, or it came up, and I guess there was a need inside of me to
Yeah.
tell her because I had some deep stuff, and I was
Yeah.
it was pretty wild. And but I remember telling her at least the first part, the first, well, and it general captured it all, but it wasn't like specifics. And it was almost like I was telling her, and I knew she was going to leave. Of course, that was programming. I knew she was going to go, "Oh my God, you're just out of your mind," But she
Yeah.
didn't. She just said, "Is that it?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Is that it?" Which made me go into a tailspin, like, "Oh my God, do I need to go deeper? Do I need to go like details?" And which
Yeah.
eventually came, but yeah. So for me, and I'm speaking. I don't know if I'm speaking as a man or just as a person,
Mhm.
but to be able to be in that space, and be able to lay it all out,
Yeah.
knowing that their opinion or love is not going to change, was just mind blowing. It was
Yeah. Game changer. Yeah, for sure. And I just wanted to mention something that's kind of we have in common, that I heard about you. And I know like it's a whatever emotionally sensitive sort of issue, but I had heard that you had a moment where you broke down on the couch and you cried and you were bawling, you said, and you knew that you needed her in
Yeah.
that. I had a very similar experience back in actually a year ago, just almost a year ago to this date, like from September 8th, where we had actually separated for a bit, where we weren't in any contact anymore.
What date was it? I'm just curious. Do you know?
September 8th, 2019.
What, September what?
September 8th.
8th. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, well, we've talked about it a lot and since said, it's something that needed to happen. It was for various reasons, and it was
Yeah.
addressing my attachment and all that kind of thing. And she had things she wanted to work on. She was still married at the time, and I had just left a marriage. So it was complicated that way and, kind of messy. So then while we weren't talking, I'm going through this process, and she had kind of told me, you need to move on. You got to date other people, whatever, move on with your life, look at your, focus on yourself, do your thing. And so I'm like, well, I guess this is what I got to do. So I'm doing that. And I just had this moment one night where I got very emotional and just like feeling like, how I can't do this alone. Like how I was just so upset and distraught and missing her and confused and wondering like, why is this happening? Why did I have this, great gem, like jewel come into my life only to be just torn away again? All this kind of stuff was going through my head. Like I was just a mess. And so I just reached out and actually to God. But first, I started out by reaching out to God and saying, God, help me. I can't do this on my own. And then I turned it into talking to myself. I love you, Greg. I'll always be there for you, Greg. And on. I kept going, like very emotionally, like while I was bawling. And this is a part that's connected to your story too, where you said then Morgan texted you, I believe. You said
Yeah.
not long after that. So then after I had that breakdown and you might say whatever, a nervous breakdown or whatever, I went to bed and just kind of like collapsed in my bed. And then the phone rang at about, I don't know, quarter after 12 or 12:40, quarter to 1 or something like that at night. And it was her. And it was just, I was just kind of, I thought I was dreaming. I was in disbelief. Like I answered the phone and she's like, "Hey, how you doing?" or what. And I think I was just kind of like talking to her like, huh? What? Like I wasn't really saying. And she thought,
How did it be?
excited,
I,
to hear from you.
I'd have been bawling my eyes out the minute I heard her voice.
So I think I was just kind of stunned, and I was like, well, what's going on here? So that I took really, as a sign that something happened
Yeah.
there. I was given.
You reached out, you called her in. She heard you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I've been in contact ever since, and there's been moments where she felt whatever urges or whatever you want to call it to separate again, and just like kind of just focus purely on herself, and that kind of thing. People want to call it the runner thing or whatever, but it's just, yeah, there's like you say, it's such a condensed period of work. There's so many different things going on that you're working on and thinking about and feeling and processing and activating and loving and like knowing what real love really is and all, feeling all that. And then on top of it, we had, our exes and families that were still, around and dealing with. And so, she would have feelings, she still does once in a while, have these feelings like she's getting this call, such an intense calling to just kind of run away with me and just, leave everything else behind and just go, just do it, But so she sometimes feel a bit of resentment come up, just not for me in particular, but
Yes.
for the whole situation. And then she'll go through this process where she's like even resenting, like, why did I even get myself into this situation where, I was married, I have a few kids, and then all of a sudden, whammo, this twin flame is in my life and throwing everything out of whack and coming to terms with that. So, and I've had my things, too, to really work through. So I'm always like doing my best to be as sensitive and understanding to her, like even her, unique situation and then my unique situation. And I've had to deal with a lot of feelings of isolation, and then especially during this pandemic, then I was already into that like for about a year before that started. So in one sense, the good thing was I was already into the swing of things, but yeah, it's, well, exactly what I'm talking about.
I know. I mean, I'm trying not to start crying right now because it's like bringing back all kinds of stuff. I can feel the energy of what you're saying. It didn't happen exactly the same, but there was, there was definitely, especially after the first trip, which was 10 weeks, and it was just like a saga. It was like these people trying to separate us, and everything was. But it just, because I could always like give myself props for keeping the energy moving forward, which was centered on myself. I knew that, but I also knew that she was like the carrot on the stick, or I knew where we were, who we were, and I kind of saw where we would end up, so to speak. But I didn't know how to get there, but I knew if I kept moving. So there would be in 9 months before she came back the second time, it was brutal at times, because there were these times of separation. And of course, my human would get totally thrown off, because my human would be like, she just told me, just let me go, and I'm like, but at the higher level, I knew that that wasn't the case. It was weird, but the human took a beating, for me anyway. And, but I like what you said too about consciously, starting to really think, to be, am I sensitive enough? I thought I was a nice guy, and I've always been told I'm a nice guy with a big heart, but this woman's just introduced a whole new dimension to me. Like, you talk a lot, which means you don't listen, every time we get on the phone, I say hello, and then you go on for 10 minutes, and then, you want to get off, and like, then I remember the first time I said to her, what's going on with you? And she just chuckled and said, that's the first time you've ever asked me that. So there was all these little nuances that I lost sight of, so and it was weird for me because I had the human part of me who I thought was me,
Yeah.
and then I had the other part of me that had connected or whatever exploded in 2011, and it was like two different people, and so I was going through two different. I was trying to understand the new world, and I was trying to navigate it by my wounds of the old world. You know what I mean? So it was, but that's the real, to me, like what you described, the energy of what you're describing is what really moves me because, the human part of it is essential. And regardless of what the human part of it's feeling or being confused about or not understanding or the pain or whatever, it has to be, in my opinion anyway, and, props to her because she's the one that showed me that. It has to be honored and revered and recognized. Otherwise, the human's not present. And if the human's not present, you can have all the multidimensionality you want, but it's only going to take you so far. You're going to be like an intellectual on the ascension, but when it comes to the bones of it, the blood and bones of it, it's got to be brought into the conversation, into the experience, because it's not going to be avoided.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's powerful, man. I knew you were going to be powerful. I just had a feeling.
Aw,
I just had a feeling.
you're powerful too.
Thank you. We all are, right? I mean,
Right.
we're all coming into it now, which is amazing. It
Yeah.
really is.
It's funny you should say that about the human, because we were just talking about that just recently too. About actually when we were talking about all this triad business and androgyny and other energies and whatever that you're merging with, and we're just like kind of not. We're trying to figure out what it is. Like we're discussing this back and forth amongst us, and just trying to determine what Morgan and yourself are talking about, and others are talking about, and we just felt like, oh, I don't know if we're ready for this, whatever yet. And I said, well, it's a component that has to be honored and respected. The ego self, like we're not going to be grounded onto this human, planetary experience if we don't have an ego at all,
Right.
So that's a part of the equation, and it has to be honored along with the divine and everything else. So, it was.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. When I met her, when I got my whatever downloads, Soulogy was given to me. That so all the writings I would end with "I am soul," and then it just became a war cry and a hashtag, and it's as much the name of Soulogy is Soulogy. But so then when I met her, she started to explain to me that you can't embody none of that stuff matters unless you embody it. Delia,
Right.
part of our team, she just said, the all talk and no walk is not supported. So a person, can be connecting and pulling down this information, having divine episodes. I was having apparitions appear. I was having, all kinds of stuff happen. And of course, there was by myself. So there was always that doubt and all that. But I also knew I was a soul, and I also knew I was eternal. And I knew that no matter what the hell was going on, homeless, whatever, it didn't matter. I was here for the endurance.
Yeah.
Other than the nights that we all have had where we just want to get the hell out of here in the darkness. But anyway, so she pointed out to me this, and I asked her for about 2 years. I would ask her every month or two, what the hell does that mean? And for some reason, I couldn't understand it. And eventually I did, which is the second, hashtag now is the human is the hero. Because, and I even I was doing a lot of music videos at the time, and I remember writing the words to this.
Yeah.
God, I hope I don't start crying, man. But, and it was, you can't find your soul until you find your human. So that's what that to me epitomized and explained what she brought to the table for me. You can't avoid your human. The human, like you're talking about in the ego terms, which is what I used to talk about when I first came out. you can't, divorcing yourself from your ego is, it makes it absolutely impossible to come into full alignment, wholly and whole with your soul, because it is a part of you. It's a gift.
Right.
It's been a gift to us. Just that the role is changing, the perception's changing of it now. It's not in command. It's a great complement and assist us in navigating. No different than a part on a car, like a steering wheel, or an accelerator or a brake. It allows us to detect things. We just see them different now. We don't see them as these handicaps. We see them as, hey, it's not even like a red flag. It's just like, hey, this is coming, like a weather report.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I got into this practice that I still do to this day, and I don't know how long ago, where, like I was saying, when I had that breakdown a year ago, I just thought, well, why don't I do that every day? Why don't I talk to myself, that I love myself, that I cherish myself, that I'm, witnessing my true self manifesting and expressing itself more and more every day. Like all these kinds of things I'm saying to myself every day, and I like a mantra, and I wouldn't, stop that for anything, because it feels like such a vital part of this whole experience. And because I know for myself, like just being conscious that I can just get a little bit over focused on her, and what she's doing, and the romance and all that, and then forgetting that, oh, wait a minute, I'm this sovereign being here. I'm balanced within myself, because I truly feel like we wouldn't have been drawn to each other when
Right.
if we hadn't already balanced our energies a little bit,
Right.
start that, so, but you got to keep it going, like
Yeah.
now is not the time to let up,
No.
when you're in the
You,
midst of this.
yeah, you can't put your feet up on the desk and kick it's kind of like getting a promotion energetically. You get a promotion, you've worked your ass off for years and years, you become the big manager or the big guy or whatever. Go into the office, you shut the door, you put your feet up on the desk, and it's like, what? You bid it off. You bought the ticket, take the ride, right?
Yeah, and then you get your ass kicked, but it's also so much joy and
Yeah.
beauty and um, divinity, and you name it. Like you can't even really. That's how like it's something real and so precious, because you can't find words really
No.
to
And
describe.
I remember, yeah. So even in those moments of the separation, which are huge gifts,
Mhm.
and it can be an energetic separation. I mean, we had probably, I don't even know how many. We've had
Yeah,
many, but so we were living in Florida for 4 months, and we probably had energetic separations 10 times, maybe more. But you're living in the same house, and you may even sleep in a separate room, and you
yeah,
may sleep together and be energetically separate, but there's such a gift, because
mhm,
it's like I don't want to say it's a challenge to your faith, but it's a opportunity to enhance your own personal faith in yourself, and of course with that love, peace,
yeah,
courage, wisdom, but it's a gift to the relationship as well. And I have to say, as time's gone on, our triggering, our these are all good words, good
mhm,
words. Separation, the bumps in the road have just got softer, less frequent, and it just keeps getting refined and brought into more alignment. And again, I think the important thing to remember, like we said at the top of the show about these couples, these are physical representations of what's happening energetically,
mhm,
and what goes for one goes for all. As the individuals go, as the couples go, so goes the collective. So it's a sign, it's an omen, it's a synchronicity, and I think when we look at it that way, because she's an energy shaman,
mhm,
and was long before I met her.
mhm.
But to start to look at everything as energy, uh, really, for me, took a while.
Yeah.
Two, the relationship allowed me to really, that was my laboratory on a personal level, to treat everything as energy. It depersonalizes things. It removes that wounded ego. And, whether you're talking masculine, feminine, I mean, we're talking energy. We're not talking about men and women. We're talking energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's just, I think this is what's really coming into the fold now this year is we are starting to recognize in the physical our energy, all of us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is how the sovereignty quotient is going to increase as it's already starting to.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I can relate to everything you're saying there. And I know we've definitely had a number of energetic breaks or separations as well. And yeah, it's gotten to the point where I do take them as blessings or, really positive things now, because it's like, yeah, kind of like hitting the reset button again. And then
Exactly.
you come back with this unconditional love, draws you back into each other again. You feel that pull to go back towards each other again. But now you're a little bit wiser, a little bit stronger, or whatever. You all right? Oh,
Hang on. Is the audio okay? I haven't seen anybody complain about it.
I lost you for a second. You're back.
Yeah, is the audio okay for everybody that's watching?
Yeah.
I don't know. She just came in and told me that our voices were cracking up. This is usually what happens when we have a lot of energy being exchanged on these shows. I can hear you all right. I hope they can hear us.
Yeah.
Well, man, this is. I didn't want to bring it up because just to be polite. Who your beloved is, and I'm not going to ask you, but I realize now that Morgan knows who it is. So they're already talking, which doesn't surprise me, because as you describe her, and I'm getting a feel for your partner's energy, they're probably like twins, or sisters of some sort, right? But yeah, I would love to have you both on.
Yeah, I love that too.
And I really appreciate you stepping up, because I don't even know. How can you remember anything in this environment anymore? But I know over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I had a conversation with somebody, and it could have been Morgan. I don't know, or it could have been on a show. But there's been a lot of talk about where is the, and again, we're talking energy. Where is the masculine? And I've noticed over the last, I want to say about the last 4 to 5 weeks, that there is a new masculine energy that's rising, and it's I've noticed it's multifaceted. I've seen it represented in a very good friend of mine who's a gay male, who's an incredible force of a balanced feminine and masculine energy, but being in a physical incarnation as a male carries this new face of one of the new faces of the masculine. But I just feel like that after many, many years, these women, for the most part, working in seclusion, doing this work without any notoriety, many of them have been stepping up. And now, over the last few weeks, I'm seeing the same thing happen with men. And so I just want to say thank you for giving me further validation in my own journey. I really resonate with you, and I hope to meet you at some point. I think that'd be great. But I have a feeling we're all coming together anyway. But yeah, so if it's okay with your partner and you guys are up for it, and just reach out to me directly, and we'll set something up. And anything else we can do to support you, don't hesitate to ask, because obviously we've got some kind of a connection here.
Sure. Yeah, we were talking about that before I came on, and just how important it is for twin flame couples to connect, more important than ever. And like for us in particular, you can feel very isolated at times and alone, and she's expressed that to me a number of times, just like, we have this, deep strong connection and love, and we talk every day, but she can feel really alone, like, because, we're physically separated, and that, just like she's dealing with all the 3D stuff and then dealing with this like two worlds
Yeah.
dynamic going on here. And so the more we can connect with other folks that are in a similar situation, we can, share the love and and understanding and help each other, sort of like, smooth the edges out a little bit and take
Yeah.
the edge off.
We've had some private conversations with couples over the years, and I think it's always good. Yeah, absolutely. And I have a feeling they're probably already on it, knowing the way it works.
Yeah.
We're always the last to know.
Yeah, she was saying it to me too. Like, the more she gets to know Morgan, she's like, she's just like me. Like, she's like,
Yeah, I can tell. Believe me, I can tell by some of the things you said.
yeah.
And again, I know it's energy, but for the most part, it falls in line with the physical gender, and just because of the way things are, But they do seem to have, and there does seem to be, a pattern of they go first, and so they know first, right? I remember when I met Morgan, I told her, I said, and this was the first conversation, or one of the first ones. And I said to her, if we get to the end of this thing and you knew everything the whole time and didn't tell me, I'm going to be pissed. She told me something very profound that she's told me a few other times, and actually it's very true, is why would I want to take that away from you? Why would I want to take away your own achievement, your own expansion? Because we all do it on our own, whether we tell ourselves we do or we don't, But powerful. I look forward to getting together with you guys privately and online and on the air.
Me too.
And it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for what you do. Pleasure is all mine.
Absolutely. Take care. See you guys tomorrow.
Yeah. Take care.
See you, Greg.